Democracy is not dying. That would imply a sudden collapse. It is decaying structurally. Its foundations eroded by force it cannot control. This is not ideology. This is mechanism. Every global democracy faces the same contradictions. Century scale problems, 4-year attention span, climate change, AI displacement, demographic collapse. Democracy cannot plan beyond its election cycle. That's the truth. So we must ask the question every nation fears. What comes after democracy? Not collapse, replacement. This is not speculation. This is observation. Hold your discomfort. We are only beginning. Why democracy promised? Democracy promised three things. One, legitimacy. The people rule themselves. Two, accountability. Leaderships or leaders fear removal. Three, representation. Society sees itself in power. But data shows a universal trend. As society grow more complex, all three fails simultaneously. Voters turnout, turnout is declined in 34 of 36 OECD countries. Trust in institutions is below 30% in most Western democracies. Polarization replaces representation with tribal welfare or warfare. Democracy worked when populations were small, when lives were local, and threats were simple. That world ended in 1991. The complexity explosion began, and democracy could not adapt far enough. The structural failure of voting system is what? What is that? The elections assume three things. One, citizens are informed. Two, preferences are stable. Three, choices are rational. None of these are empirically true in complex societies. Modern politics is a psychological manipulation, arithmetic or algorithmic, micro targeting, identity based extremism. We do not vote for leaders, we are moved toward them by system we cannot see. This is not democracy, it is behavioral economics with ballots. Consider the 2016 Brexit referendum. 17.4 million voted leave. 78% could not name a single United European Union law. 92% had no understanding of trade implications. The vote was legitimate. The decision was not informed. This is the paradox. Democracy gives citizens power over questions they cannot answer. The vote has become a loyalty test, not a governance tool. The governance time horizon problem is that civilization face 100 years problems. Climate change, climate system, energy transition, fertility decline, technological disruption. Democracies face 1460 days incentives. Win the next election, avoid short term pain, distribute visible benefit now. The mathematics is fatal. When short term survival and long term viability conflict, democracy chooses survival. Every time. Look at climate policy. The Paris Agreement was declined in 2015. It required immediate economic transformation. The actual action was symbolic. Commitment and delayed enforcement. Why? Because carbon taxes lose elections. The politician who imposes real climate cost will be removed by voters before the benefit appear. Democracy cannot solve the problem that will destroy it. This is not a moral failure. It is a time horizon mismatch built into the system. Yes, I'm not joking. So the information collapse. Democracy assumes a shared information environment, but we now lived in fragmented realities, infinite narratives, thousands weaponized information. In 2004, three major news sources control 80% of information. Today, 8 billion internet users create 8 billion separate realities. Representation collapses when voters no longer agree on the nature of reality itself. Look at the US presidential election in 2020. 147 Republican congressmen voted to reject results. 70% of Republicans believed the election was stolen. 98% of Democrats believe it was legitimate. Same election, two incompatibility realities. Election become wars between mutually exclusive worlds. Democracies cannot mediate a society that no longer believes in common truth. When consensus realities dies, so does democratic legitimacy. The knowledge problem of democracy, a complex, more modern state, is structurally too complex for citizen insight or oversight. Consider what voters are asked to evaluate: nuclear deterrence strategy, central bank monetary policy, biosecurity, pandemic response. What is this? Cyberware doctrine, AI safety regulation. This cannot be put to a vote, not because citizens are incapable, but because no human can master all domains. Even experts disagree. The democratic fiction is that citizens can hold leaders accountable for decisions they cannot understand. The reality is that voters evaluate feelings, not policies. Does the economy feel good? Does the leader seem strong? Does does the future feel safe? The result is that power shifts from ballots to bureaucrats. The people who actually run the state, central bankers, intelligence chiefs, regulators, they are no elected. Democracy becomes technocracy in denial. We vote for the actor, the director remains invisible. The new reality show and the new reality shadow governance. Power no longer sits in parliaments, it sits in four places. One, central banks. They control inflation, employment, and asset prices. Never elected, rarely removed. Two, intelligence agencies. They operate in secret, accountable to no one. Three, tech platforms. Google, Meta, X, TikTok. They control what 5 billion people see. And four, defense complexes. They profit from instability and lobby for conflict. The pattern is clear. Government rotates, power doesn't. Election change the actors, not the incentives. Look at the revolving door of US Treasury secretaries. Robert Rubin, Goldman Sachs to Treasury. Henry Paulson, Goldman Sachs to Treasury. Stephen Mnuchin, Goldman Sachs to Treasury. The same people circulate between finance and government regardless of which party wins. Democracy has become a performance around non-democratic course. What replaces democracy? The question is this, the biggest question. Three competing successor emerges. One, technocratic authoritarianism. Like China, meritocratic selection, long-term planning, data-driven governance, high efficiency, zero accountability. Model 2, that's the next angle. Algorithmic populism. Like the United States of America, elections continue but decide nothing structural. Social media platforms sets the narratives. Whoever controls the algorithm controls reality. Model 3, fragmented micro-sovereignties. Like the UE or the city states, local government for local needs, global elites for global capital, national government becomes middle manager. Case studies like Singapore. If you want to see what comes after democracy, go to Singapore. The Singapore model is one party dominance, meritocratic technocracy, algorithmic urban planning. The numbers are undeniable. GDP per capita higher than USA. Corruption lower than Nordic countries. Life expectancy of 84 years, but press freedom is ranked 129th globally. Political opposition is functionally impossible. Dissent is legally punished. The uncomfortable truth is that Singapore proves the model works. Citizens are richer, safer, healthier, and better educated. They are also surveilled, controlled, and limited in speech. The question is simple. If you had to choose between freedom or prosperity, which would you pick? Singapore's answer is prosperity. And they are not alone. UAE, Rwanda, Vietnam, they are all following the same path. Administered civilization is not aiming. It is already here. Name for the next system. We must define what we can measure. The system replacing democracy is administered civilization. This is a governance structure where legitimacy, loyalty, and consent are replaced by data, efficiency, and behavioral control. It is government not by law but by algorithms, predicting policies, automated benefit distribution, social credit system. It is not accountable to citizens, only to stability. Performance metric replace elections. Efficiency trumps representation. The people no longer choose the state manages the people. Citizenship becomes compliance. This is not dystopia, this is optimization. The mechanism of transition. Democracies do not collapse, they transform. There is a 5-stage process. Stage 1, crisis, a pandemic, war, or economic collapse. The public demand government do something. Number 2, stage 2, emergency surveillance. Emergency power. Surveillance is expanded. Civil liberties are suspended. Stage 3, normalization. Emergency becomes permanent. Powers are never returned. Stage 4, technocratic capture. Unelected experts make key decisions. Politicians differs to the science. Stage 5, democratic theaters. Election continue, but they decide nothing structural. Voting become rituals, not governance. This has happened before. Rome moved from republic to empire. Weimar Germany moved to the Third Reich. But this time it is global and algorithmic. No dictator required. Just system, data, and the promise of safety. The counter argument is very defensive. The defense of democracy is that we can adapt, that we can reform, that technology can empower participation. My response is simple. True, the tools exist, but they require the very things modernity has destroyed. Shared truth, delayed gratification, trust in institutions, willingness to sacrifice, self interest. You cannot reform a system when citizens cannot agree on what is broken. You cannot coordinate long term actions in a society optimized for instant gratification. Democracy's survival requires the social condition it has already lost. At the conclusion, if this analysis is correct, we should see three things by 2030. One, voter turnout below 40% in major democracies. Two, central banks making openly political decisions. Three, at least one G20 nation dropping the pretense entirely. If I am wrong, this video will age poorly. If I am right, we will already be living in the system I am describing and pretending we are not. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The world after democracy is not a dystopian fiction. It is the system already quietly governing us. The ballot remains because the system must preserve the illusion that we are choosing, a comforting myth. The only question left is, will we design the next system or be designed by it? The future governance is not consent, it is control, not representation, but administration. And that future has already begun. That is not the end of democracy. That is the end of our belief in it. So, administered civilization, that is the ending of humanity.